So every week during the Ask a CFO show, we always have a special feature. And the special feature never consists of a question and an answer. It's always some kind of topic that keeps popping up for me during the course of the week. And that's part of the weirdness of how life works, right? I mean, something pops up one time and then all of a sudden you see it more and more. And the topic that keeps coming up for me this week, I never knew how to talk about it before. But now I have some language around this, which I want to share, and I'm going to something that's going to help me with the concept. It's funny the number of times this came up this week. The phrase fairly allocating risk came up a lot this week. And some people ask me what that means. And this is what I say. I would say that in a financially healthy relationship, risk is always fairly allocated across all parties. And the cool thing is, it doesn't have to be the same risk perceived by each party. One person perceives, let's say, a financial risk. One person perceives an intangible risk, like a performance risk or a timing risk. And these are all variables that can be adjusted. And in a financially healthy relationship, they do get adjusted and they get designed. So if you're selling services or selling products, or if you're about to make a purchase and you're perceiving more risk than you're comfortable with, you actually have an opportunity to design what that looks like without necessarily giving something up. So a couple of examples. There's the obvious stuff, changing the price, increasing or decreasing, right? If risk is increasing for the other party, that makes downward price pressure, and risk is fairly allocated. If something is very low risk for the other party, then that typically would drive up the price in a financially healthy and financially sustainable relationship. There are other ways to design the risk profile of a relationship than just price up or price down though. How about the frequency with which something gets paid? If you're about to sign up to pay recurring monthly services, what if you pay weekly? What if you pay semi-monthly? Changing the timing changes the risk profile. And I'll tell you this, a company providing products and services is generally much more willing to negotiate the timing of payment than the amount of the payment. Don't forget timing when you're negotiating to fairly allocate risk. Another aspect is the method of payment. A paper check is a lot more risky than an instant online payment. So, for example, if someone wants to pay you by check, then that's risky for you. So do something to counterbalance that. If you choose to accept that, then say, for example, sure, we'll take on the additional risk of taking your paper check, and you're going to need to pay up front instead of us giving you terms, for example. That's an example of fairly allocating risk. Do it by design. Don't just say yes and leave it at that. Don't just say no and leave it at that. So the method of payment. Who initiates the payment is also a way that you can consciously design risk. Does the customer initiate payment? Does the supplier or service provider or vendor initiate payment? Who initiates the payment, the movement of those funds? That can be something that you design. It doesn't have to be a certain way. And it certainly doesn't have to be a certain way just because you think that everybody else is doing it that way. This relationship is yours to design the risk profile. And the techniques that we've just gone over are, drop in the bucket, right? We've gone over price up and price down. the timing, the method of payment, whose fingers on the button. Hey guys, welcome to the show. Love that. Thanks, Vanessa. Yeah, those are just a couple of things to consider. And another aspect is if let's say there's a project, and this has to do in part with timing, but if there's a project, do you pay up front? Do you pay when the thing is done? When does the money move? Does the money move 50-50? 50 up front and 50 when it's done, let's say. Does it move 30% up front, then 50 when the project is delivered, and then 20 when any tweaks are complete? Is it the same structure but different dollars? Is it 50% up front, then 40% when it's delivered, and then 10%? So these are different ways to allocate risk. If you've made an offer or if you've received an offer, if that works for you, if that strikes you as, yeah, risk is fairly allocated, sure, go with it. But if something doesn't sit well with you, then get in touch with where the risk seems out of whack and make a request or make an offer. Risk is something that you can design, and I invite you to do so. Thanks for listening about that. And as always, if you have experiences, opinions, comments, or questions, whether you're listening to this live or watching after the fact, absolutely weigh in with your questions, your experiences, and your opinions about allocating risk. Because I'll tell you what, when risk is not fairly allocated in a relationship, the relationship is not sustainable. Either the client is going to leave, or the service provider is going to leave, or the vendor is not going to be your raw material supplier anymore. It's not sustainable. And that is why risk is worth designing intentionally. Thanks for listening.